Hey Booktube, Science Fiction Reads here with another edition of Recent Reads and a few new books. A decent amount of new books. And as ever, I'm sleep deprived, so we can expect half-remembered plots from what I recently read. So I think I last left off, I was halfway through Greg Bear's Hegira, which I believe is his first novel. When was this published? 79. It's not as well written as his later stuff. Poorly described, kind of. I had the same complaint with where is it? With Aeon. With Aeon, I had the same problems with his description of the environment. Sometimes it was confusing to picture where the characters were. This is a strange world that's many times bigger than Earth, with many different human populations and cultures scattered across it, with strange societies, because on this planet there are these various obelisks that reach up into the atmosphere and have all of previous humanity's history and learnings and teachings engraved on them. They start out right at the beginning of time on Earth with basic science, and as they go up higher and higher, it's more advanced science and history. So you've got these weird cultures who mostly don't have advanced tech, building their own societies around these things. Some groups are using like balloons to travel higher and read the obelisks to learn more science and stuff. And it's a very cool world building. Like I would almost like multiple books or stories in this setting. But it was just mildly confusing. And then at the end, as it all wrapped up very quickly with some severe hard SF, which I enjoyed. But again, the description was so rushed and somewhat confusing that it was hard to tell what exactly was happening. But it's enough to say that it's a crazy artificial world with some very cool hard SF concepts going on. So I did enjoy it. I'm glad I read it. And I kind of wish there was more in this world. It was pretty neat. Then I think what I read next was C.L. Moore's Northwest of Earth. So I'd already read two of these stories, the first two, which are Shambleau, her first published story, which she's best known for, probably. And the next one, see, there's no table of contents in these, so it's super annoying. Oh, Black Thirst. I'd already read those two, plus there's one later on where he runs into Jirella Jory, which is her other character that I love very much. Multiple stories with her. I think there's 6 Jirella Jory stories, and there's something like 13 Northwest of Earth. So Northwest of Earth, or Northwest Smith, is basically like proto Han Solo. In probably half the stories, they feature his partner in crime or business, whatever it is they do, Jarl, who's a Venusian, and he's pretty cool too. And I think the thing I love most about these stories is when the two of them are together. C.L. Moore never actually tells you what it is their business is, what they do. You pretty much put it together. Like, they're just involved in various different crimes, whether it's hauling illegal cargo from planet to planet, or in one case, they do take on an assignment to try and capture women as slaves, but there's a little more to it than that, because these women are only theoretical on one of the planets, or one of the moons of, I think, Venus. Maybe it was Jupiter. Anyways, on one of the moons, it's just a completely jungle-covered moon. But there's been rumors that there's these beautiful women there, and then they just sign up to potentially capture them and sell them as slaves. So morally gray characters at times, although Northwest Smith has lots of moments of morality and doing the right thing. But I really like how she just doesn't really tell you what exactly it is they do. He's always in the middle of something, whether he's scouting out a location or just spying on someone, but then this side tangent happens, and that's what the story ends up being. So it's really cool. Sometimes he has a spaceship, sometimes he doesn't. They all take place on a planet, though. And it's really, I guess Lee Brackett was my first introduction to cosmic horror type stories, but C.L. Moore is a lot more cosmic horror with her Northwest Smith and Jirella Jory. And those two characters do link up in one story, which means they do exist in the same world, which makes sense. Jirella Jory lives in 1500s France. Northwest Smith lives in 3500s, our future. And in both characters' realms, which I'm going to assume is the same realm, basically, each character gets whisked away sometimes to like these little pocket universes that are ruled by like strange gods or demons and stuff. So there's a lot of like adjacent dimensions that they end up, for whatever reason, getting sucked into interacting with, kind of thing. Like Northwest Smith seems like a magnet for supernatural experiences. Like he can't help but get involved in these without even trying, because he's always just in the middle of some sort of crime or errand and something happens. And as ever, like I have famously terrible memory. A lot of these stories are very similar, so they all blend together. There's usually a female character that's kind of a love interest, and she almost always dies. Oftentimes they sacrifice themselves for him, but it's not exactly as lame as it sounds. Because these were written in the 30s and 40s. Oftentimes it's like, yeah, we just met 5 minutes ago, but I'm in love with you, Northwest Smith. But these women are usually in some sort of supernatural, terrible situation, and it's more like, you've provided the means for me to get out of this through suicide, and if I can do that and help you, I will. And so that happens sometimes. A couple times he ends up killing them himself. Oftentimes somebody just comes up to him with kind of a mission or a quest, and he's always in need of money, as is Yarrow the Venusian, who loves to drink and always needs money for drinking. So I love that. I really liked the one that took place in New York. Really one of only, I think, 2 stories that takes place on planet Earth. Yeah, it's called Lost Paradise. They're just sitting at outside a cafe or an outdoor restaurant or something, on the side of a skyscraper or something in New York, talking, having a drink. And they see this strange character who Yarrow recognizes as one of the moon's original inhabitants. Like there was a species of humanity that lived on the moon long, long ago, and they're very rarely seen. And he gets into trouble, and Yarrow saves him, but at the cost of he has to tell Yarrow a story or something. Like he owes Yarrow a favor, basically, and he's honor bound by it. And Yarrow says, "I want to know the secret of your race," which is, I guess, something that these people keep close to their heart. But the guy reluctantly agrees, and kind of sends them on a vision kind of thing, and shows them the past, and inadvertently reveals a dark secret of his own culture's past, which somehow involved Northwest Smith. I'm not going to spoil it. It was really neat. And this whole time while he's telling the story, he has this mysterious box that he's holding. After he tells them the story, and there's these epic revelations about the moon's past and more cosmic horror, he basically just says, well, now that I told you the secret, I have to kill you. And he tries to kill Northwest Smith. Yarrow saves him with a gunshot. Now the police are running. They decide, we got to get out of here. So Northwest Smith is like, jumping over this table. He's running away. He's got all these thoughts about how he, through bizarre circumstances, was involved in something millennia ago. And he just kind of looks over his shoulder at that box, and there's just this kind of wistful moment where he thinks to himself, I'll never know what was in that box, or what that guy's errand was, or what this was all about. And he just keeps running, and it ends there. It's just neat. Like the endings of these stories are always really bittersweet. The one with Jirella Jory was really good. It basically ends with him feeling like he's in love with a woman who's now been dead 2,000 years, kind of thing, because they only briefly meet up in a what I think was kind of like an adjacent universe or some sort of pocket dimension. Really neat stuff, really out there. Absolutely fell in love with C.L. Moore last year. So I'm sure I'll read more of her this year. I also want to get to Henry Kuttner, her husband, some of his stuff. I also read A Christmas Carol. I got an awesome Folio Society edition. I read it on Christmas Eve last year and this past 2023. So I guess that's my new tradition. Something I got for Christmas, and I've read 2 of the 3 novellas in here, is Adrian Tchaikovsky's Terrible Worlds, Revolutions. This is a compilation of 3 novellas that you can buy separately, which I had almost done in the past. So it has Ironclads, Firewalkers, and Ogres. I read the first 2 so far. I was going to read Ogres, but it's in like the second person, like you're the main character. And I read a few pages and just wasn't into it, so I put that off for now. But yeah, you can buy these separately. I'll probably put up the pictures of them. He's amazing at world building. Like everything this guy reads or writes is awesome. Ironclads is about the near future where a lot of today's nations have fractured or bound together into new nations. There's some sort of war going on in Europe. Governments and businesses are really, really corrupt and basically fighting wars to hide what they're really doing. And the rich participate in the wars, but they are in basically what they're called ironclads, maybe, or basically they're in mechs. They're in invulnerable suits, so they can go out into war, have fun killing the enemy, but they're indestructible. Whereas the modern or the average person is just a soldier who could easily die. One of these rich folk, in his impenetrable armor, disappears, and these 3 grunts are approached and sent on a mission to find out what happened to him, how his suit was hacked or compromised. And along the way, they discover a lot of deceit and lies. It was short and really cool. The highlight would have to be all the characters from Finland. There's a lot of foreshadowing about Finland has kind of gone dark. There's a lot of rumors coming out of Finland that the Finnish have gone crazy with genetic manipulation. And when we do meet the Finnish characters, they are awesome. The other one I read was Firewalkers, which involves kind of the near future, a couple hundred years in the future, I guess, where the Earth has really dried up. I don't know if the sun's activity has increased or something, but the rich have built 3 space elevators on the equator. They're building a spacecraft, and they're eventually going to leave. And around the bases of these space elevators are like these really poor societies that are barely surviving because there's no water on the equator. Basically, it has to be driven in. But the rich need these people to work for them to keep the solar panels out in the desert running, to keep the machinery running down on the ground. So they pay them in water and other stuff to work for them. Firewalkers are people who have to go out into the desert and fix any equipment that has gone wrong, or build new solar panel installations and stuff to keep the space elevators running long enough so that the rich and wealthy can eventually take off in their spacecraft for some other planet. And again, it involves a group of people, 3 young people being sent out into the desert to figure out where some power has been siphoned off. Somewhere out in the desert, there is someone has tapped into the main power to the space elevator that they live around, and these people are going to be paid a lot of money to go out there and fix this problem. Most firewalkers, though, do not come back because it's so dangerous. So again, really cool world building. Again, these characters learn about a lot of deceit. There's a very cool AI in this. I love AI stories. And again, it's really about people discovering a lot of corruption and deceit in their world and overthrowing it, sort of thing. So really cool. Ogres, I believe, is similar. It's all kind of about basically a revolution or corrupt powers and people affected by it. So, really good stuff. I'm sure I'll read Ogres sometime this year. It really turned me off that it's written, I think in second person, right? Where like you're the main character. Really bizarre. And the last book I read for 2023 was Neil Asher's newest release, Jenny Trapdoor, and a polity novella. He self-published this. He's done this a couple times recently on Amazon. Unfortunately, the first one he put up of this had some really bad typos on the back, and I ordered it before it was fixed. Not really a big deal, but I have typos on the back, whereas if you order it now, there's no typos. I started reading this, I think, the day it came in because I wanted to read one more book by the end of the year, and this was only going to take 2 days. So another great polity novella. This takes place early on around the Trapdoor Human War, which is, if you know anything about Neil Asher's polity series, that's kind of the beginning of it. I actually did a video kind of going over the world of the polity, which I'm actually quite proud of. It turned out really good. It's just, I made it in 2 days, and if I had taken my time, I think it could have been a lot better. And if I had time and memory, like it took a lot of time just to reread stuff so I knew what I was talking about. If I had better memory and time, I would make more videos like that because I'm really happy how it turned out. Anyway, this involves one of my favorite things he does, which is a character who's kind of lost their memory at some point and is slowly piecing it back together. There is 2 stories going on at first. Jenny, I can't remember her last name. It's not really important. But she's the pilot of a cargo ship around a planet right as the Trapdoor attack. And there's a lot of references to stuff that occurs in Trapdoor Moon, which is also, I mean, it is a novel, but it's basically novella size. It's pretty short. There's a lot of references to this, but it was so long ago since I read it. I think I missed even more references. There's also references to characters which I think exist in the trilogy. I can't remember what it's called. I know it's Pennyroyal is the character in that trilogy. I think there's characters in this novella that are in that trilogy. It's just been too long to remember. But this involves, so there's the one thread is Jenny, a cargo pilot who just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The other thread involves a drone spider, like, an 8-ton size of a car, robotic spider, also named Jenny. So you're trying to piece together what the connection is. She's on a different planet, underground. It's currently, well, when she first arrived there, it was held by the Trapdoor, and the polity was waging war on it. And she was kind of covertly taking out Trapdoor soldiers, which are large crab creatures, but highly augmented. She was taking them out from time to time, but she kind of just went rogue and did her own thing and wasn't really involved in the war. She just kind of became bloodthirsty, and eventually they tracked her down with an EMP and a nuke and knocked her out. And then she wakes up many years later and is piecing together her life again, or her memories. And then the 2 stories kind of blend together. I absolutely love the polity stuff. It's cyberpunk, space opera, military SF, which I'm not a fan of, but for some reason, Neil Asher's blend of military SF is my kind of thing. Nobody explains high-tech, well, just high-tech better, or high-tech warfare. I love his descriptions of drones or golems, which are basically AI-controlled, human-looking androids. And I enjoy this so much, I think I'm going to, possibly my next read will be this Asher trilogy, which I really should have read by now. The Spatterjay trilogy, because there are connections to the world that trilogy takes place in this, which just got me interested in it. That trilogy starts with the Skinner, The Voyage of the Sable Keech, and the other one is Orbis. Spatterjay is this crazy planet. I think it's mostly a water world, but there's a virus there that if it infects humanity or a human, it makes them incredibly invulnerable, but kind of a slave to the virus sort of thing. And there was a lot of references to that here, and it just got me really, really eager to get back into the polity. If you're curious about Neil Asher or the polity, check out the video I did about it. I think it's like 11 minutes long. It's just a quick summary. And recently Neil Asher himself commented on it, which really pleased me. So that's what I read recently and what I might start reading next. I also, at some point, I'm going to read The Starman by Lee Brackett. John at Sci-Fi Scavenger bought this for me off my Amazon wishlist. But this thing sent me on quite the mystery. The synopsis on the back is actually not for this book at all. This really confused me. I was talking to Sean Standfast about this because he's read plenty of Lee Brackett. There's a description on the back, which I read in my last video when I talked about this. It references characters, which in hindsight are actually from one of her books, The Sword of Rhiannon, and one of her short stories. They're totally unconnected, but the names here, Matt Karst and Kieran, those are characters from two unrelated stories, and they're not in The Starman at all. The Starman is actually, I think it was first released as The Starman, whatever year this was released, and it was later retitled The Starman of Lyridus. So this is The Starman of Lyridus, but the synopsis on the back is not for this book. And after some research, I can't actually find anything that it's about. So I don't know where this synopsis came from, if it exists as a story or something. It's a short story because I have all her books. It would be a short story I haven't read yet, but the names are wrong. So I don't know. I couldn't figure it out looking up online. I'm guessing this synopsis, wherever its origins lie, is not actually any story that she wrote, which is a shame because it sounds awesome. But that being said, The Starman of Lyridus is something I haven't read by her yet, and I want to read it. So at some point, I'm going to read this, especially because John got it to me as a gift. So again, thank you, John, even though it unexpectedly had me scratching my head. But I am going to read that sometime soon, too. So what's left is a couple things I bought myself from local bookseller I've mentioned before, the bookstore on Pluto, because he had a great deal on during December. So I got a few books for practically nothing. And a couple things I asked for Christmas. These first few I got for Christmas here. John Shirley's City Come A-Walkin', which I think this is 1980 this came out. Yeah, 1980. This is very early cyberpunk that nobody seems to mention. I've heard very few people mention it. Probably Outlaw Bookseller has mentioned it, I think, but I really haven't heard it mentioned much. It involves kind of a struggling bartender and I think a rock singer, or she plays guitar or something in a band. Those two characters are approached by a manifestation of the city they live in, which I think is San Francisco. This takes place in the future. I think it's San Francisco. Turns out the city is conscious, and it forms this kind of, I don't know if it's an android or a hologram or what, but it manifests itself as a person, and it approaches those two with a mission of sorts, because I believe the government is corrupt or something, and it sends them on some sort of quest or mission. It sounds absolutely wild. I'm very excited to read this. Just a random, I got Brian Aldiss, Galaxies Like Grains of Sand. This is a short story collection. It's got spines quite faded. Somebody at some point wrapped this in this plastic, which when I first started reading in like 2015 science fiction books, I did this for a few books with nice cover art, and I have a feeling years from now it's actually going to just destroy the cover as it peels off. I'd rather just have put it in a bag, but anyway, otherwise it's in great condition aside from that and the faded spine. But This is just a short story collection from, well, it's from, I think, 79, but my copy's from 85. So I think there's like nine stories there. With an introduction by Norman Spinrad. The Chronoliths by Robert Charles Wilson, one of his books that I didn't have yet. I have most of them at this point. I think just a few of his modern ones and a few of his very early ones I don't have. This involves a bunch of monoliths just appearing out of thin air all over the world. And they have inscribed on them the military accomplishments of some sort of world ruler who has yet to exist. I think it's only I think it's less than 100 years in the future. So a weird mystery about some sort of military conqueror in the near future. But these monuments of his achievements are popping up in the past. Sounds good, and knowing Robert Charles Wilson, it'll be amazing. I think the rest here, there's others I have coming in the mail. They haven't arrived yet, which is frustrating because there's a few I'm quite excited to talk about. I got a gift card and I bought some Clark Ashton Smith, which is coming in the mail, and some Robert E. Howard, like all the Conan stories. But that one won't arrive for a month or two. The rest here I bought from the bookstore on Pluto. So, Somtau Sucharutkul butchered it. Just butchered it. This is a 4 or 5 book series. Good luck ever finding the rest. These are pretty hard to find, I think. I don't think they're that popular, but they sound really good. Sounds like an early space opera. This is from 79. And it involves some sort of culture or organization that goes around tracking down utopian worlds and destroying them. And the main character of this is an agent of that establishment that finds a utopia and decides not to destroy it. Sounds good. Sounds bizarre and has excellent cover art. The only other book of this author's I have is called Mall World, which is a collection of short stories that take place on a world that's, I think, completely covered by one giant shopping mall. But I think this is a little more serious. So yeah, I don't know much about it. It just sounds really interesting. I have Seas of Arathne by Jeffrey Carver. One of those cool laser books. This does not have great reviews, but it is the earliest chronologically or literally, I can't remember now, in a series he wrote. He has a space opera series, and I've slowly been collecting those books. I think I have 4 now. I can't remember how many there are, but this is the earliest. So I picked that up because bookstore by Pluto often has books go on sale, and this was like $2 or something. And another one, this one I know nothing about, Birthright by Kathleen Sky. I think it's an Android story. Just cheap and look neat. And the last 2 here, these were also on sale. Edmund Hamilton's Battle for the Stars. Got some excellent old pulpy. Actually, how old is this one? First printing 64, so it's actually not that old and not that pulpy probably. I don't think this actually had great reviews, but I'm interested in reading more Hamilton. And then he has this massive series of books featuring Captain Future. This is like book, I can't remember now, 13 or something, but I think you can read them as standalones, aside from the first couple probably have his origin story or whatnot, but that's easy to read online. This is the Comet Kings, and I believe it involves fighting some sort of cosmic horror on a nearby asteroid. So that sounds awesome, and it's super, super short, 120 pages. Copyright 1942, so that's not when this copy was published, but I don't think, but it doesn't say when this came out. But yeah, it sounded interesting. So that's where I'm at. My birthday is this month of January, so I'm sure I'll have another book haul as stuff comes in the mail, and I'll probably get a few books for my birthday. It's pretty much all I ever ask for. Yeah, so that's that for now. Looking forward to another year on booktube, although halfway through we're having a baby, so I suspect my reading will drop way off. But for now, thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.